Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm David. Let's talk about BB22 All-Stars.
But first, if you're new to this channel, please click subscribe and give this video a thumbs up.
And if you want to support us on Patreon, there's a link in the description. Whoo, Sarah.
Whoa,
Sarah?
This is going to be a video, y'all.
Okay, we thought we had live feed updates on Friday. And now here we are on Monday. And oh boy.
Y'all, you asked for it. I blame all of y'all. You said this season stinks. It's boring. Like, come on, let's go.
Drama.
And then like, boom.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Here
first,
we
can
are.
I say thank you to Diana for my shirt.
Yes,
David has one too, but I haven't gotten it to him yet. That's on me. But thank you for my shirt. All right, let's recap the Sunday's episode first.
Yeah.
And then let's get into this absolute messy drama that has happened.
Oh my God.
Mostly just in the last 24 hours. Yep.
Let's do it. So the first thing we see on Sunday is Cody, Dani, and Nicole. Kaser. How dare you call us out? Kaser.
How dare he play the game of Big Brother? How dare he?
Yes,
doesn't he know we're the only ones that can do it?
That's exactly what they are like arms folded like children, like somebody blew our game
up. I've never said anything about him, and then he says I'm in an alliance. Oh no.
Yeah, very funny to see them all like petulant about having their stuff blown up, but that was fun. And then we go into the bathroom where we're kind of seeing Da'Vonne, Bayleigh, and Tyler debriefing, right? Having a little post-mortem from the HOH competition about like, Cody.
Are we in an alliance?
And what's going on with this Slick Six? I thought we were all working together, but obviously not.
No, you're not. You never were. Okay. Oh, you won't. We do see Cody starting to like do some management, fixing up with Da'Vonne, like, oh, that's my bad. Totally my bad.
Yeah.
For picking you.
You know what? It was Kevin. Kevin had me flustered because he picked me and Nicole. I don't know what was Kevin doing? Why would he pick me and Nicole? I'm like, because you just got blown up. Like, whatever. I mean, he's doing his best to, you got to do it. Damage control with Da'Vonne. She's not really buying it. She's like, okay. I think he leaves the room and she's like, you're not slick, like to the camera, you know, she's like, that's not real. Like she's ready for war at this point is what she says in the DR.
Yeah, but she did do her fair share of like damage control with him as well. Like they both just know they have to play the game. And I appreciate that so much. We know that they're full of crap. They're not telling the truth to each other, but you got to do that stuff.
Yep. It's part of the game.
Yeah. Let's see.
We get a big old package now. Yes. Now we have to kind of... The producers and editors have to do a lot to set up how did we get here. Like if you've been tracking the live feeds this week, you kind of know that like Da'Vonne and Bayleigh are Christmas's targets, but like how did we get here? Why are they her targets? So there's a big like lots of flashbacks to like day 19, day 26, all this stuff, and it's Dani and Nicole Franzel planting seeds about how Da'Vonne and Bayleigh need to go.
Nicole, I just want to reiterate, Dani, Nicole, this is where it all stems from, y'all. Don't forget, don't have recency bias. Don't just be mad about the one thing in front of you. Dani came into this house with Janelle and Kaser as the target. She made that clear, house target. And then she was like, gotta get started on my next house targets. And that's Bayleigh and Da'Vonne. And she's been planting it for a while. And you know who that works on? Christmas.
Oh, yeah, because Christmas is just looking for someone else to tell her, like, what could I possibly do as HOH? And Dani's been working this for weeks. you know?
Weeks,
So
y'all, weeks.
this is not necessarily, I mean, we do see a conversation between Bayleigh and Christmas where Dani's not involved, strangely, but they're kind of talking about like, who's your untouchable? And Bayleigh says to Christmas, Davon is my untouchable. So that's like just another little seed, I guess they're trying to make us believe.
I mean, they'll take anything and turn it into ammo. It doesn't even have to be anything. That's just the one little soundbite that Christmas is going to take. But what we really notice is like when Dani walks in for her one-on-one with Christmas, they do that whole hug, dance, hee 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 hee. That's when you know they're like that. Christmas thinks the world of Dani, loves giggling and going hee 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 with Dani. Like that's it.
Yep. If you're not doing that little victory dance, then
it ain't
you're
real.
Probably in trouble, you know? Yeah. But Dani's in the diary room saying like, I like Christmas because I can trust her. And to me, that reads Christmas will do what I want her to do. And that's why I like Christmas, which is like
Christmas.
Accurate. Yeah.
She listens to me and she does what I say.
Right.
Love her.
And so they're like talking about Davon and Bayleigh some more. And Christmas is talking about how emotional Bayleigh is and how she feels like, you know, this, I think they're aware that like jury's starting soon. I don't know. Do they know that like this is the last pre-juror? Okay.
Yes.
So they know that this is like,
there's been a lot of that talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bayleigh turned out to be an emotional voter in her jury on 20. Yeah. And there's been a lot of talk about like, do we want her in this jury? Like, this is the time to get her out. So that's another thing that they're making as an excuse. Yep.
Then we do see Davon go, and I mean, Davon did a lot of great gameplay on the feeds that we didn't get to see in this episode, but she does, you know, come to have her one-on-one with Christmas, and she's kind of doing what she has to do. She says, you know, congrats, HOH, that's huge. And I'm not coming for you. Like if I had, because it was down to the two of them, she's saying if I had one HOH, like I wasn't going to be coming for you. I hope we're all good. But it's just kind of reminding me of last week when we saw Ian talking game to Enzo for the first time when Enzo was HOH. And that's kind of what's happening here. Christmas is in the DR. Like, you have not talked game to me yet, Davon. And now all of a sudden I'm in power. And of course you want to like come and talk game to me. This is like how Christmas is processing this conversation with Davon.
Which is like yes and no, because Christmas and Davon and Bayleigh have talked a lot. Davon and Bayleigh thought they were working with Christmas, but that's because everyone thinks Christmas isn't working with anybody. But Christmas is so loyal and takes it so seriously what Memphis brought to her, like in that first week. Yeah. And so that's what's important to Christmas. So her being like, sorry, Davon, you weren't in that group is basically what she's saying.
No, yeah. She's basically like, you're not in the committee. So this means nothing to me. Like any.
Yeah. Is it the committee or the commission?
So the commission, I think this is maybe the one thing about alliances this season that I understand, because other than this, like, who knows? But the commission is, let me get this right, Cody and Memphis. Okay. They're the two. Thank you. The other four form the committee. The 6 is the committee, but the 2 is the commission, and that's Cody and Memphis.
Those 2 words have been thrown around, and in my notes, I was like, "Oh God, what is it? The committee or the commission?" I completely.
Now watch, watch the chat is going to be like, "You're completely wrong, David." Like,
no, I don't even care. Or you guys, that alliance is ridiculous, and I can't believe it. Honestly, is running this house. Yep. It's like not even a real alliance, but it is in Christmas's head and Memphis's head, and so here we are.
Yeah, that's why it's coming up so much this week, because Christmas is like determined to make the committee a thing, and it's going to work until it's final 6. And that's like partially why she's targeting Davon and Bayleigh. Then we see Enzo, who is not in the committee, but Enzo and Christmas are super close. Yeah. And this is kind of an interesting edit because it went down a little differently on the feeds than it did on the show.
Right. I was like, why are they showing this? Because Enzo was in his mind ready for Christmas because Christmas is his pit bull, right? He was ready for Christmas to be taking this strike against Dani. He was talking to Kevin about it beforehand. He was like, this is it. She's going to do it. He was like, all ready. And then he goes into the room with her and he's like, Dani. And she's like, yeah, I love Dani. So I'm thinking about getting Bayleigh and Devon out. And he's like, oh, yeah. You know, because like Enzo doesn't fight you on this stuff. He's just like, yeah, oh, you and me. Yeah. So I was like, why are they showing this? Enzo didn't do anything in this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty.
Yeah. Essentially, it's more about like the emotional players. Like he wants to sick Christmas on different people. And specifically, you know, like I said, again, the emotionality of certain players. He's mentioning Devon, Bayleigh, and Nicole Franzel as the emotional players in this game. And so it's, again, just more building up to like, why is Christmas targeting Devon and Bayleigh?
Yeah. Exactly.
Then we get the BB basement. Christmas comes out to explain what this whole thing is.
Now, this did make me lull. I was laughing, especially when Nicole lost her pants. I was like, yep, that was everything I needed.
Oh, my God. And just the audio of her being like, my pants are gone. Like, she's screaming in the dark about her pants are missing.
And she was like, she had them halfway. She was like walking with them on her ankles for a while. I was like, lose the pants. She's yelling, my pants. I mean, if
like, you're in the dark
room,
who cares?
And you just hear Nicole yelling about her pants, I would just have died laughing. And I did. I died laughing.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was just so funny to see them all like bumbling around and like bumping into each other. And I mean, there were, again, like, it's just so fun to see these competitions play out because we don't get to see them on the feeds. And so we know the results when we get back on the feeds, but like how close were certain people, right? So like there was that great moment where Bayleigh has a lightning bolt piece, but it's too big, you know, like who knew that they had more than one lightning bolt in this thing? But you're like, oh my God, Bayleigh, is she going to get this power? But it's like the wrong size lightning bolt. And so Bayleigh does not win the disruptor power. It's David who wins the disruptor power.
Yo,
what?
I mean, on Friday when we were like, could be Tyler, I never once did David cross my mind. No. Who would have thunk it?
We don't even think about David in this game. Like, we're not going to be thinking that David has the power.
On one hand, it's great because he listened to all of us and he like laid back and was like, whoa, take a beat. So good for him. But yes, I forget he's in there all the time.
Well, and after watching him do basically everything wrong all season, you don't think that he's going to be the one who won a power and actually kept it quiet, you know, because he's like, he's been so in, like with someone like Tyler, we see him later. Like, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we see him later in the show lie to Tyler and say, I didn't win the power, when Tyler was like kind of his number one for a long time in the game. So I'm just like, color me impressed that David has a power. And I would argue he has the best of the three powers.
He does.
And
I would agree.
He kept it quiet all week. Very excellent on his part.
So his disruptor, he can use for the next 3 nomination ceremonies. This one would be the first one, and then the next 2. He can save someone from being a nominee, and it can be after the fact, which is huge because up till now we've seen it like you have to tell us ahead of time. Kind of thing. So you have to know that you're going to be nominated, and this doesn't seem like it's that. Yeah,
I could have used a little more clarity in the episode about how specifically his needs to be used and when, because it does say that it's anonymous, right? Like he's secretly saving a nominee, but I was like, does it have to happen before the noms or can it happen after? And what are the mechanics? Like, I assume he's just going in the diary room and telling the producers, like, this is who I want to save. But you just would think, I mean, they're so specific about the rules with power when there are powers like this. So is it good until the veto? Can he use it up until the live eviction? Like, I just don't understand, like, when does this power stop being effective in a given week is essentially the information that I'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to know that. Like, there is, like, when we get to Dani's, like, she has to say by 10 a.m. the morning of eviction for the HOH comp thing. We'll talk about that in a minute. But so, yes, he has a deadline of something. We just don't know when it is. I can't imagine it's post-veto. That doesn't make any sense.
No, right?
But is it possible that you sit down for a veto ceremony and all of a sudden you're like, da, 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 the disruptor has been played. And like all of a sudden something changes and then we go to veto. Like then they're like, oh, and also I won the veto, but like now everything's changed.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Maybe it's up until when they pick players for the veto competition. So at least like when you're picking players, you know who's going to be competing in the veto competition.
Yeah, I would hope that his deadline is in between noms and the veto player pick.
Yeah.
So when you go to do veto player pick, it goes dun, dun, dun. So that the person who is going to be the new nominee at least has the opportunity to play veto. That's what I would hope.
Yes, exactly. Because like if he can use it after the veto, then essentially he has the power to backdoor somebody, you know, like, so that's like kind of an entirely different scenario with like a lot of power to potentially get someone on the block without them having the ability to like fight for their safety in the veto. That's a lot of power. So, I mean, I think part of the reason we don't know, maybe they like didn't want to get too into the weeds and specifics on the show. And we just haven't heard David talk about it at all to anybody. Like I imagine if we'd heard him talk on the feeds, he would have said like, it has to be by this time and we get the details, but he's been mum about it, which I love.
He has, and he had another conversation today with Tyler, and he still didn't spill it. So I'm super impressed.
Yeah.
David.
Yep.
All right, Dani is the next
Dani
one.
in the replay. And I love her diary room soundbite because she's like, I can't wait to find out what this is. I hope it's good. And I'm like, just eating that up because I saw on the feeds that she was like, this is trash. I cried in the diary room. I don't want this.
It's trash. It's garbage. I cried in the diary room, which I think is accurate because they kept cutting away to her hands, which is a weird cut. Big Brother doesn't usually do that, but they're cutting away probably because her reaction is not positive and they can't show her face.
They have no footage. But I'm also like, why do they have a camera there? Because like, it's not just her hands, it's like fists. So you're like, oh, she's like clenching her fists like this sucks. I hate this. Is it
possible they cropped in?
Maybe because it's very much a crotch shot. Like if her hands weren't there in front, it's just like right where she's sitting, you know? So I'm like, why would a camera be there in the first place? So I think you're probably right that it's like punched in on some kind of like side angle or something, but like they clearly do not have the footage to cover this of her like looking excited whatsoever. So they just have to show her fists in front of her crossed legs.
So hers is the replay, and this can allow the HOH to replay isn't the right word, to play in the HOH comp their following week.
Yeah, right. Normally you'd be ineligible to play, but this makes you eligible again. And she can use it for herself or somebody else.
Someone else. And I don't think it's complete trash. I think that if your ally is HOH, you let them play it again. And you still have the better odds of being safe. Like it's it's not as powerful as David's, but I'll take it.
And if she were, you know, I think, you know, she's kind of claiming like, I can't win anything. I'm not winning comps. I'm so bad at this, but I think she's actually been throwing things for a bit 100%. Here. But if she were someone like Cody, like I think Cody's playing hard for all comps. He would want a power like this so that he could win HOH. He would want 2 HOHs back to back. I just think it's not necessarily a power that is super helpful for the game that Dani is playing, but I don't think it's a trash power generally.
Yeah, and especially if it's your last week to use it, just use it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And our third one is the blocker.
Yes. No, this was great because Davon was like, y'all, I am not going to win this. I don't have the piece. I don't know where it is. I know there's only one power left because it was like announcing over the loudspeakers, like the second power has been found. So Davon knows there's only one power left. And she's like, well, I'm just going to stand in front of this blank podium and block everybody else who's trying to come here.
Yes, I love that. I mean, that's not going to work in the long run. People are like hovering and like waiting for her to stop and like shoving their piece in the way. But still, I loved it. She's just like, elbowing people and just like, I'm trying my piece. I'm trying my piece. Get it, girl. Whatever you can do.
Right. But eventually Christmas does kind of like elbow her way in there. And, you know, we already knew that she had the blocker power and she can save someone from being a replacement after the ceremony.
Which is a really good power.
Yeah.
You know, if you know that someone's about to be backdoored, if you think you're about to be backdoored, especially, you can save yourself.
Yeah.
And honestly, Christmas is someone that they would probably backdoor because she can play and she can do well in comps. Although we haven't really seen it, but we have to assume that she can play really well in comps. And so I would backdoor her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I mean, so far she just stands there and doesn't do anything and she wins.
I know. I mean, it's tough because like the two things that she's won legitimately have not been open public competition, right? Yeah. She won the safety sweep, but everyone was like competing individually. And now this, you know, secret power, this blocker power was won in the dark. The HOH she won, like you said, by not doing anything. So we'll see how good she is in public competition. But yeah, I think this is a good power. I would rank them probably David's is the best and then Christmas and then Dani. But I think they're all decent powers.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. And if like, you know, one of her closest allies is going to be backdoored, I'd use it on them if I thought, you know, my last week or something, it was about to expire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not use it?
Yep.
So those are the three powers that we see.
Yep. And we see them all. We see them all, learn about them in the diary room. And then once all that housekeeping is done, we get to the drama of Dani confronting Bayleigh. And she's like, you and Davon wouldn't even look at me. What is going on? Trying to like smooth things over. And Bayleigh, I guess, is in a confrontational mood because she looks Dani dead in the face and she says, why do you think that would be, Dani, that we wouldn't look you in the eye? It's because we heard you were coming for us. And it's like, oh, okay, this is the stuff that we didn't see, right? Like the feeds were down. Right. So we did not see this confrontation. We saw a little bit of the fallout, but this is like, my eyes are like glued to the screen here because this is like compelling stuff that we did not get to see on the feeds.
Yeah. Okay. So we saw the aftermath and obviously Bayleigh was really upset and we do learn a little bit more here about it, but this is not an altercation. This is not a fight. We are not yelling. No one is being like dramatic or obnoxious, but one person is playing more emotionally. Like Bayleigh is an emotional player. She doesn't hide, you know, like if Dani comes at you and is like, why are you not looking at me? Then you'd be like, oh my God, you think I wasn't looking at you? That's so weird. No, I didn't mean that at all. Like that's how you play Big Brother. But Bayleigh doesn't play that way. She's like, I can't, like, why do you think? So then, you know, unfortunately, it just starts to become a thing because then Enzo walks in and now she needs Enzo to help her prove her point, which again, like, this is not how you play Big Brother. Like, why are we outing, you know, people that you're working with, things like that. Yeah. Enzo's is like, yeah, I had heard it. Yep. And then runs away, like, basically.
Right. But this is like the quickest way to get someone to turn on you, to kind of corner them, blindside them in a way. Like he just thought he was walking into a bedroom. And then all of a sudden he's squarely in the middle of this thing between Bayleigh and Dani. And it's because Bayleigh pulls him into it. And she's like, was there or was there not a rumor? And it's like, Bayleigh, you got to be able to like stand in your own truth. Like I heard this and not need someone else to back you up. But she pulls Enzo into it and he doesn't want to be there. You know, it's just not.
Yeah, I mean, you want backup, like personally. You want to know your alliance members are there for you, which they've been there for her at all this season. No, they have not. But you want them to be there for you. But yeah, to be like pulling people's names in for other people, that's when it gets dangerous. And that's when people start becoming very protective of their games. And then we see an unfortunate interaction between Tyler and Bayleigh, and I feel like both of them were immediately triggered from BB20.
It's wild. Like
a lot of that.
it reminded me immediately of what was happening between the two of them when it like exploded on BB20. Bayleigh, but I will say, like, Bayleigh is there and she's calm. She's talking to Tyler and she's like, I'm not going to say your name. And she's essentially there like, I'm not sure what to do, looking for advice. Like, how should I handle this? And he's honestly, I would say that Tyler is a bit more emotional in this moment than Bayleigh is. She's calm. She's like, crap, this thing happened and I didn't maybe play it as exactly as I should have. Now what do I do? And Tyler's like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that to Dani? You blew up at Dani. And she's like, and that is like when it like sets it off for her, because that is very much kind of what happened in BB20. And she's like, I did not blow up. Dani confronted me. And because she confronted me, I'm the one who blew up at her. And like, you can just tell that it like flipped a switch in Bayleigh, and she was taken back 2 years ago to BB20, and she's immediately like, I got to get out of here. And she has to walk out. Like, she was just there looking for advice, and it just became kind of her worst nightmare. And it was like kind of tough to watch. It
was tough to watch. And like, now we understand because the feeds came back and she's crying to Davon saying like, and now I just ruined Tyler and Enzo's game. And like, I see both sides. Like, I see, because Tyler plays the game of like, oh, did you not look me in the eyes? Oh, like, oh man, no, we're good. We're cool. And so it bugs him that Bayleigh can't do that. Bayleigh, you know, is like, oh no, there's a reason I don't look you in the eye. You know, so like, he's upset with her having those flashbacks of BB20 of like, oh my God, she's playing emotionally. And then she's like, oh my God, he's just jumping to the fact that I blew up when I 100% did not blow up. So both just like, jumping to BB20, and you know, so it's just not good. Nobody.
I know. And then we see her talking to Davon, and Davon is someone who can settle Bayleigh down, you know, like, she has the right energy. This, I think, is like a constructive conversation between Bayleigh and Davon that's happening. And then Tyler walks into the lounge, and it's like, you are just go away. Like, you're the last person who needs to be here right now. Like, I understand you're trying to be still in the game and you want to be part of these conversations. You want to be sure that they're not plotting something behind your back or something, but he's just in there. And again, he's kind of trying to calm Bayleigh down a little bit, but she feels like he's condescending, and I did too. Like, I sensed the same thing. Like, it just feels like he's talking down to her like, you're not playing the game right. Like, the way that I do things is right, and the way that you did things is wrong. It's kind of like almost like he's scolding her, and that's just not what Bayleigh needed in that moment.
No one needs that in that moment. But I do just feel like they play the game very, very differently, and they're never going to align on that. Like, he is anti-emotional, even though like in that moment, like, he's being emotional, but like the way he plays the game isn't emotional, and she plays it emotionally. Like, they're never going to line up on that. It's just not going to work.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the last thing we see right before the noms, even though there was a lot more drama on the feeds. And then boom, we go to noms, and it's Bayleigh and Davon, as Christmas has been so excited to do this whole time.
Well, she's been very excited to do it, but then it seems like she has a tough time standing behind it. I love Davon's reaction in the moment, because Christmas gives this speech about like, which Tyler kind of planted the seeds of this speech to Christmas, we saw on the feeds, but Christmas gives this speech of, Bayleigh, I'm nominating you, and Davon, I'm nominating you because you are Bayleigh's untouchable. And Davon, and like, Christmas is kind of wrapping up her speech, and Davon's like, Christmas, so you're nominating me because I'm Bayleigh's untouchable? And Christmas is like, yes, ma'am. And Davon's like, okay. Got it.
Thank you for doing that, Day. Love you.
Yeah, right. Because it's like, it's not really a good reason to nominate someone. You should put up two people who are like coming for you, or, you know, like saying, I think if you get Bayleigh out, then you don't have to worry about Davon being Bayleigh's untouchable. But like, why is Davon on the, you know, it's just difficult to justify, I think.
Well, you always put two pairs up. Like, that is a given. Put two pairs up. What Bayleigh and Davon are harping on, and rightfully so, they're like, we're not the only duo in this house.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take that info and say, okay, she's putting a duo up. We're not the only duo in the house. So she's obviously working with the other duos. Like, that's where you need to go. 1 + 1 equals this. And that's where I think sometimes people miss. They're like, you know, she's putting up this duo. She doesn't like that duo.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
But I also think Christmas could have phrased it like, what she maybe should have done is like, you are obviously each other's untouchable. But the way that she phrased it was like, Davon, you are definitely Bayleigh's final two, but Davon, Bayleigh is not necessarily your final two. Like, you could argue that's kind of what she's saying. Like, she should have just been like, you're a power duo. You're clearly like going to the final two together. And so I have to split you up. But what she says is a little more nuanced than that. And it seems like it's a one-way final two, where Davon is definitely Bayleigh's final two, but she doesn't like acknowledge that it is also the other way. So Davon like sees that crack, and she's like, oh, so I'm just up here because Bayleigh's going to take me to the final two.
Yeah.
It's not about me taking Bayleigh, you know, it's just like, and then Christmas is all weepy in the episode in the diary room. Like, this was so hard. And this game, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, just come on, stand behind your nominations, at least for like the evening, you know?
Yeah. It's really weird because she was crying on the feeds for a while. Like, Bayleigh and Davon were comforting Christmas after Christmas put them up. Like, that is so weird and bizarre. I mean, part of me feels like something is just off there. If you're picking up what I'm laying down, something is not right there when you can like be so gung ho to put someone up and then cry once you do it. Like, that's not stable.
Mm-hmm.
Can I put it that way? That's not stable. Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to spoilers, because those are just as messy as the rest of this.
And you know what that means. We get a messy song to introduce
let's
get spoilers.
That's messy, y'all. Okay.
Spoilers. The worst one yet.
That was on me. Okay. One more time. Let's try this.
Okay, let's try it. Okay.
Spoilers.
Nope. I don't know if that was any better.
We should be fired. We should our channel should be taken off the YouTube. It's done. Everyone unsubscribe right now.
No, when we get to 10,000 subscribers, our song is going to be perfect. So let's get there.
What it is.
Yeah, let's get there. Come on, subscribe.
We're just trying to match how messy the house guests are. That's all.
Absolutely. Okay, like, where do we start with these spoilers? I don't even know.
Okay, well,
let's
get just to the basic ones. Veto happened.
Yeah, and Christmas.
It was Christmas one. It was one of those like prize punishments one where you go down the line. So the first person out, which unfortunately was Davon. She grabs the veto, and then the next person can take that veto or take something else. Some people end up with prizes. Some people end up with punishments. Last person standing can pick to take the veto.
There you go.
Christmas wins it.
Christmas wins. We also know that like Nicole Franzel got a punishment. Davon, I think I saw, got like $5,000 somehow due to Nicole. Like, it seems like Nicole threw Christmas a bone in some way, or threw Davon a bone in some way. And so Davon has $5,000, which is great for her. But yes, you're right. It's like a lot of prizes, punishments, but Christmas is the one who ends up with the veto. So I guess she is a competitor here, Sarah. She won the veto.
We'll see. This one is another questionable comp.
Okay.
Because sometimes you again win it by default. Like I remember when Angela won it that year, it was because they just allowed Angela to have the veto and no one else took it. You know, it's like sometimes this one is won by default. So we'll see. We'll reserve our judgment until we see how this goes down. I can't even read this, Seth, but thank you for the super chat.
Well, how have Nicole and Ian still not been on the block yet? That is a great question because...
And I did all the claps there. Okay.
They are the winners.
They're the only 4 more winners. Yeah. No, they're sitting pretty, those two. Those two are sitting...
inexplicably. Now, after Christmas wins the veto, this is when things start to get messy, right? Because Tyler's emotional. Tyler is talking to Da'Vonne and Bayleigh saying... You're here for a bigger purpose and I'm not. He's saying things like, I miss Angela. He's saying things like, I wanted to go pre-jury anyway. Feeds are cutting every time he talks about going home early. Wasn't there even some talk about like self-eviction? There's just too much talk about self-eviction, going home pre-jury, and I'm like, this is not cute for All Stars.
It's not. That part is not cute because a lot of these house guests have talked about self-evicting. Ian tried to self-evict. We know that Bayleigh tried to self-evict at some point. Today, Dani was talking about self-evicting. I don't think she actually was going to do it, but Tyler has seriously tried to self-evict multiple times, it sounds like. It's so weird to see because we're so used to the house guests being like, I just want to make it a jury. Like, I just want to make it a jury.
And these people are like, I do not want to go to jury. Like, even Janelle and Kaser were both like, I don't really want to go to jury. Like, I'd rather go home pre-jury. And it's like, I don't want to hear that, you know? Like,
yeah, for sure. Okay, but let's really talk about this because... it's messy and it doesn't look good and I'm disappointed at a lot of people. But what happened, and I honestly ask all of you who can find the clips or go back to the feeds and watch it's not that long. Watch the conversation between Tyler, Bayleigh, and Da'Vonne because there's a lot of opinions out there. We can all have different opinions, that's fine. But a lot of people feel differently, whether he was being honest or it was for game, right? And so reading an update, you cannot hear the tone, you cannot see the body language. So before you pass judgment on if he was being real or not, watch it. Okay.
Yes, I could not agree.
In that conversation, he's doing a lot of apologizing. He's saying he feels guilty. And I will tell you, his body language to me felt honest. So in my opinion, this was real. His apologizing, feeling bad that he is screwing up with Bayleigh again. He doesn't like the optics of the two of them being on the block together, which I do believe because he said other things like that before. He was apologizing and saying like they have a bigger purpose in this game than he does. Like he just wants to win, but the reason for them to win is bigger. Well, that's true. So I also, in my opinion, wish he had just stopped right there. But what he goes on to say is, I want to get Christmas to backdoor me. I should go before the two of you.
Yes.
Well, that gives Bayleigh and Da'Vonne some hope.
Yeah.
But we all know there's no way Christmas is going to do that.
No, that's not good for Christmas's game.
She genuinely wants Bayleigh out.
And
like that's her target.
She just put Bayleigh and Da'Vonne on the block together. You think she's going to agree to a plan to send her final two home and leave both Bayleigh and Da'Vonne in the house together after she just put them on the block? Like this, that would be disastrous for Christmas's game. But you know, I mean, if anybody can convince her of it, it's probably Tyler, and he does try. Like we see him go up to the HOH, but there's a lot of feeds cutting here. We do not know what is happening, and I don't know that we're going to see a lot of this on the show. I think they are trying to brush this under the rug. They don't want this narrative on the show of self-eviction or volunteering to go home or anything like that kind of has no place in an all-star season. And so I don't think the producers want us to see any of it. And a lot of people have been frustrated with how often the feeds are cutting, but it's like every time there's even a breath of like, please send me home, or I want to go home pre-jury. It's immediate cut of the feeds.
Right, exactly. So we do see Tyler go into HO's room, start the conversation with Christmas. There are things I need to tell you, but the bulk of that conversation we don't see. So we don't know how it goes, but we do see the after conversations when they are done talking about it. We see conversations between Davon and Christmas. We see more conversations of Tyler talking to Bayleigh and Davon, and they're all talking like it's going to happen. Like, never says I'm doing it. She doesn't say that ever. She loves to be a stickler for the rules, aka she loves the power trip. She's not gonna say it, but they spend last night thinking that they have a second, breath of fresh air in this game. Like that Tyler's gonna be backdoored, and Davon is doing a lot of good work with Christmas of like, let's do a girls alliance. Let's pair up with Dani and Nicole. Like, she's really trying to help this move forward. But ultimately today, the veto ceremony happens. Christmas doesn't use it. Like we said, there's no way she's going to let her final two of Tyler go over Bayleigh, who she wants out.
Yep.
And so here we are. It's tough to watch because I just wish, like, great, Tyler apologized. I love it. You felt bad, but like, if you're even going to try with Christmas, which I have mixed, like you, I have mixed feelings on like trying to get out of the game. But if you really are going to try with Christmas, just don't give Bayleigh and Davon any false hope, Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because then they had like, I don't know how much time it was between, I think it was just last night, right? That he was starting to talk about like, maybe I can get Christmas to backdoor me, but you're like kind of giving them a whole day of like, okay, maybe we still got this. Like maybe, this alliance can continue and we're still working towards this goal and all of that. And then it's just the veto ceremony happens and they're like, nope, like, we're still just as screwed as we were 24 hours ago. Great. Yeah. And we did see, some of the feeds post veto ceremony. Davon and Bayleigh are sitting there like, well, my sister, like one of us is going home on Thursday, so let's enjoy this. And it's obviously they're disappointed, but they're kind of at this place of like, it is what it is, which is where you have to be. I can't imagine that we're going to see them campaign against each other. I think if anything, we'll see them campaign for themselves potentially, but I don't know how this week is going to go because these are two people who really just love each other and have so much respect for each other. Yeah. It's kind of like a Janelle and it's very much, I think, like Janelle and Case are on the block next to each other. Yeah,
it really has been lovely to see their friendship. The two of them together is really fun to watch. Davon her head is in this game. Her reads are not always great, but her head is in this game and she's been working to stay already. Even before this whole veto mess was up, she was already working on votes. So even though you're right, like she's obviously not going to campaign against Bayleigh, but she is definitely trying to stay. Mm-hmm. So I do expect to see more of that. But the problem with all of this mess opinions are not of what's true and what's not. All of this got super messy and it's just helping Bayleigh and Davon to keep the blame on Tyler when in actuality it should be on Dani. Like Dani started all of this. Let us not forget. Okay.
Let's not forget.
Let's back it up. And this is unfortunately what Davon and Bay are missing because they're not seeing Dani as the bad guy right now.
Right.
They're only seeing Tyler and Christmas as the bad guys. Christmas, that's accurate. But let's just back it up for a minute here. Dani moved the house target to Davon and Bayleigh back when like the Janelle and Kaser thing had started to run its course. She started her work weeks ago. That happened. Then Tyler gave Davon and Bayleigh a heads up. That was genuine. that was real information he gave them.
Yep.
Davon and Bayleigh eventually let that cat out of the bag, threw Tyler under the bus to Dani and Christmas and other people. And now here we are. So that's the game moves.
Yeah.
For the record.
That is the history of it. Like, write that down, people. And like to your point earlier, Sarah, it's like a recency thing. They're just looking at Tyler as like, he's, been doing XYZ for the past 48 hours. But don't forget, a week ago, 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, Dani is the one who has been setting Bayleigh and Davon up. And they're just not paying attention to that, because now what's been happening in the last 3 days is they're forming potentially a girls' alliance with Dani. And Tyler is this person who's gotten them in all this trouble for, like you said, just trying to give them a heads up that Dani was coming after them. But it really blew up in his face.
It did. Tyler's game is not good. Bayleigh's game's not good. Davon's game's not good. And honestly, Dani's game is questionable, but she has already made up with Cody. She's, she's got this fake thing with Davon now. I mean, maybe it'll turn into something real, but it's real hard to trust Dani because her allegiances have been to Nicole and Cody this whole time. Yeah. So it seems like Dani is, no one's looking at her, and she has, armed herself again. Like, she's protected again.
Right.
And we are distracted.
She's now focused on the guy who tried to blow up her game, right? So she has said to Bayleigh since the veto ceremony that, well, I thought that I heard on the feeds, she told Bayleigh, and who knows what's true and what's not, but she's saying like, listen, even if you go home next week, like, don't you worry. He is next. He's my target. I'm going to make it my mission to get him out. And I think Dani would be smart to do that, because like Tyler has already tried to blow up your game. So like, you should try to get him out, because Tyler's also going to be the one who's trying to talk to Enzo and Cody and to get people that Dani is working with to turn on her. So it would be smart of Dani to try to get Tyler out.
It would be. And I was looking forward to a Dani Tyler war. This has like gone a weird route that I didn't expect. But I guess if that's still what we get, great. It just worries me that Davon and Bayleigh, whoever stays, is going to be aligned with Dani, and Dani will cross them at any time that she wants,
I know.
But unfortunately, that's been the name of this game this entire season. It's like trusting the wrong people and not fully understanding who is being loyal to you. Mm-hmm. I guess that.
But I mean, I think it's a sign that like Dani's doing a great job, because even when people are told that she is coming after them, she gets in a room with them privately and she is able to smooth things over and convince them that she's going to work with them. That is a good Big Brother player. So like credit to Dani here.
Absolutely. She's the one who started all of this and looks the best coming out of it. Like, hello. Insane, crazy. But we have to give her those props, because people are falling for it. So.
Right. As much as we're like screaming at the television, like Dani is the reason this is all happening. The fact that she's able to talk her way out of it is like, dang, girl, you are good at this game. Yeah,
for sure. So I don't even know. Like, I do think that Davon has the votes to stay at this point. Mm-hmm. That's been the talk over the weekend, but David really wants to flip that vote, and Enzo is up for flipping that vote if they can. Like, he's not going to put his neck out for anything, but he was always closer to Bayleigh. So I do think there is going to be some discussion, some back and forth. People are really going to debate this, like, who should we keep? So I don't think that it's set in stone or secure who is going to go out this week.
Yeah, right. A lot could change, but I think you're right that like, as of now, Davon has the votes, but I did see that conversation between David and Enzo about flipping it. And I don't think that it's the most outrageous thing to consider that flip might happen, because like, I think that you could convince people like, yeah, Davon should go before Bayleigh. And I don't think it would be that hard, but we'll see what happens. Because Davon, I think it's going to be...
They make up stuff left and right on like why you should keep someone and not. So make anything up.
Yeah, I do think, I mean, I'm about to say this. I'm not sure if I'm going to stand by it, but let me say it. I think Davon is going to be, I think Davon will prove to be a more effective campaigner. I think that she'll, I don't know, I just feel like she's kind of navigating these delicate conversations a little bit better than Bayleigh is. I will repeat, I do not think that she's going to say anything bad about Bayleigh in her campaign. It's going to be more just like navigating positives about herself and like setting herself up with allegiances and stuff, if, you know, provided she does stay. But I think Davon is going to survive this week and Bayleigh will be the final non-juror.
Davon has put in such great work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's done a lot of great work this whole season, but since she went on the block, she has just been nonstop work. Like, she definitely takes moments to like, be friends with Bayleigh, to support her, to talk her down when Bayleigh's upset, but she is like head in the game, work. So it would be great to see that paid off, but just because she's doing the work doesn't mean that, you know, they abide by that. They're going to pick whoever they want to pick to keep.
Yeah. Right.
So, and just a heads up, Memphis is sitting back looking great, you guys. So that's still
settle in.
Nobody's talking about him.
Settle in for Memphis, sticking around for a while.
He's not going anywhere, y'all. So just end the stream on that note right there, you guys.
Oh God, yeah.
What a weekend! What a day! I'm actually going to be jumping over on Jolene's stream tomorrow night. She streams at 5:30, and she has a 100% different opinion than I do, so that'll be interesting.
Jolene has takes on this situation.
She has takes. She also plays this game emotionally, and so
she does. She really does. I love it.
She is my Bayleigh, and I am the Tyler in this situation. So, Julie B, thank you so much for the super chat.
Yes, thank you.
Danny's the one who made Day and Bay compete against each other in the HOH one. Don't forget, thank you. I don't know why they don't see Danny is doing all this. They saw it for a second, and then Danny worked her way out of it. That's how good Danny is.
That's how good she is.
It is, and Memphis is hibernating, and that's how he's going to win the game. And that's it. And I don't know what the role was for, but here we are. Okay. And then we will be back Wednesday night after Wednesday's episode, so we can see how this veto actually played out and if we can actually give Christmas credit for winning this comp.
Right.
And
we'll
also
probably have some more live feed updates. Yeah, at that point.
Yes, of course. How the vote looks then. So we will see you guys Wednesday after the show. Thank you so much for joining us live in the chat. And if you're joining us later, please leave us a comment on how you think this hot mess is going down.
Please sort it out for us in the comment section. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Okay, bye.
Bye.